I'm Dan Morris, you're watching Bosun Dan Bushcraft, and today I've set myself a little challenge. And what a day I've picked for this particular challenge, as it's been raining all through the night and it's very wet out here. So this is the wazoo fire necklace. Well, it's actually two different wazoo necklaces that I've combined into one, because if you wear two they just get all tangled up. So first of all, there's this thing, which is the Viking sharpening stone. Lovely little stone, actually, very nice, very smooth. Does a good job. We'll talk about that some other time though, because what we're actually here for is the wazoo fire necklace. Now I've given myself a little challenge today, and that is to come out to the woods and start a fire using this, and only this. No knife, no frayer, no combat shovel, no absolutely anything, just this. Now it is very damp out here, and I am rather used to making fires in wet environments. I've yet to fail in a wet environment to date. This might be that day. Now these are available from Wazoo. Other alternatives are available. You can buy the bits and make your own, whatever. But wazoo.com, I think it's called. They've got lots of different survival things. I might try and put a link in the description, or at least the website. I'm not really very good at that, but you'll see. And what it actually is it's just a little tiny ferro rod, a ferro rod button, like a toggle basically, and then this striker. Now the striker is a very hard magnesium ceramic thing. I don't know how they've made it, but considering how thin it is absolutely wafer thin, and it's incredibly strong. Actually, it's a very resilient thing, but it's not metal. It is a type of ultra hard ceramic, and it does work relatively effectively, with the exception of the fact of it being absolutely tiny. But it does generate sparks quite effectively with its little striker. But like I say, the size is a bit of a hindrance because it is teeny weeny, and the weather is going to be a hindrance because everything's going to be damp. So I'm going to have to really pull out the stops when it comes to finding the right materials, as I can't split. I'm not allowed to use my axe to split wood to get at the lovely dry insides. So this is going to be fun. It's all fun and games in the woods. Right, on to finding what I need to burn. Go. Now, because of the challenges of the day mostly being moisture, or as I like to call it, gravitationally affected precipitation, I live in Staffordshire. It is always wet here. Even in summer it is mostly wet, so anyone who does any sort of bushcrafty camping around here is always pretty well averse to lighting fires in wet weather, because if you can't, you ain't having a fire. It's always wet. Now what I'm going to have to do to get any level of success here is treat this the way that you would a friction fire, say such as a bow drill. Now, one thing that you learn from doing bow drills is the preparation before you build your ember is absolutely key. You need to have the stuff to burn, and what I mean is your early light, the things that you're going to put on after you've got the flame, or you know, with a bow drill you'd have a nest of material that your ember goes into that you're going to light. For this, we're obviously going to have to use birch bark or something that's going to catch the sparks from the ferro rod to get the first initial flame. But after that, we're going to need something small, thin, and ideally dry to bring that flame up to a bigger temperature, so it can then start to devour bigger things. Now that's where what we need is larch trees. I don't know if you can see, but behind me there is a load of larch trees. Now larch trees, especially this time of year, but you'll find them any time of year, they are always shedding these little branches. And the two sorts of things we're going to be looking for is dead hanging and dead standing. Now dead hanging is one of those things that actually makes a holly tree quite useful, because there's not that many uses for hollies. They certainly aren't useful for cooking and stuff, because they can be toxic. I think they are poisonous. If you try and cook on them, it's not good for you. But they're really good at collecting this. Because they've got all the spiky leaves, anything that drops off these larches around these hollies is just going to get caught up in the hollies. So I can already see a load of it in the hollies over there. And obviously there are larch trees over there, so that's going to be my first place of attack, is straight over to where the larches are, because there's likely to be loads of it hanging about there. And on a note of these things, particularly for what I'm doing today, even though the little pine cones burn, I don't want them. They are absolutely sodden. They're like little sponges, so they can go. But with these, quick test, does it snap? If it snaps clean, it's dry, basically. That was a clean enough snap for me. That's dry enough, we can work with that. So already, just approached a holly, and just like I said a moment ago, it is already full of larch. Feels damp, but I know on the inside it's going to be dry. And actually, turn around and look at that. La-di-da. Look at that tree there, absolutely riddled with larch. And that's what larches are, you know, they're up there. When it comes to firelighting, larch trees, and most of the pine family actually, are up there with the birch when it comes to being good for making fires. And it doesn't take much to make this stuff catch fire really well. It's obviously, being a member of the pine family, it's full of that lovely resin, which is basically an absolute gift for fire. I mean, there's so much here, it's almost like I've set this up. Obviously I haven't, it's not like I've been running around hanging larch in trees, what would be the point? And again, just look over there. Another tree that has caught an absolute ton of fallen larch. Now, you may see tools lying about in the background of this video. Combat shovel handle there. Freya is in the bag. I have all my usual tools. That's because I'm going to be doing something else after I've finished this one. So don't think I'm cheating. I'm not cheating and I'm not lying to you. None of those tools are going to be used in this challenge. I've just brought them to do other things. Now, any fire, when you know it's going to be difficult, preparation is key. The more the merrier, particularly when you've got something to light it with like birch bark. Now, birch bark is obviously the fire tree. Everyone loves birch. I do too. But the problem with it is it's a bit of a flash in the pan when it comes to lighting. It doesn't burn very long. It's kind of there and gone. So we need to get the materials as thin as possible and prepped up as much as possible to make sure that that flash in the pan actually ignites stuff. And this is where, on my way into these woods, I gave myself a little jump up and collected this stuff. Grasses, yeah. Last summer's grow that's all died in winter. And it's relatively dry. It isn't bone dry, unfortunately. Now, I stuffed it in my pocket as I did walk through the woods to help it dry up a bit. Kind of sacrificed a bit of insulation by letting it soak into my jacket a little bit. And now what I've done, and anyone who watches my videos will tell you, I always say, bring yourself a scabby old towel. Very useful. You might recognise this particular scabby old towel as being the one that I made the easy chair out of, where you just need a towel, some paracord and 2 sticks. I still never even bothered untying the damn thing. Why not? I might want to make that easy chair again. But what I've used this towel for at the moment is as I'm walking around collecting other things, I keep opening this grass up and turning it and then just wrapping it in the towel. And I'm using the towel itself to soak a bit more moisture out of that whilst I get everything else ready. Relatively sensible idea. See how well that works later on when we come to light the thing. Now when it comes to this sort of stuff, fire hat, one of my little ceramic bowls from when I've been slingshotting out here. Save that. Now when it comes to this sort of stuff, obviously preparation is absolutely key. You've got to think about it as the more time you put into this part now, getting things ready, the quicker your actual fire is going to be when it comes to being a fire. And anybody who's done bow drill work will tell you, you don't want to be in the situation where you've just ignited your material, you find out you haven't got enough, because you don't want to have to be bow drilling again. It's exhausting. In a sense, it's very similar with this. If my immediate light material, the birch bark, if I burn through that and don't get this ignited, it's then another time consuming process because I have to go off and find more birch bark to try again. So you need to get it right the first time, especially as we tend to have a bit of a diminishing effort when it comes to this with people. What you'll do is your first one will be your biggest collection, and if that's not enough, you'll go out and you'll hurriedly collect more and try again and fail and try again and fail and try again and fail. You need to get in the habit of making it so you're ready at the start. So you know, once you kneel down with your sparky rod and you're ready to go, you know you're sound and sorted. Now, all of that waffle aside, all of this stuff needs to be processed before it's going to be of any use. So what you want to do is collect off the thinnest bits first and make yourself a good old pile of all these tiny bits. This is time consuming, so I'm going to start doing that. I'll come back to you when I've got a pile of it. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm basically making 3 piles of slowly thickening sticks. So the first pile is the very wispy bits right at the end, the tiny little sticky skinny ones like that, little tiny wispy fellas. That's obviously going to be the first bit that I'm going to chuck on to the grass, if hopefully the grass goes up, and all the thinnest of the thinny bits go there. Next pile, slightly larger, the branches that the little wispy bits are actually on. Yeah, and then your third pile is going to be basically the thicker part, which is the end of the larch stick, like that. So I'm going to end up with 3 different piles of material ready to go up through the grades as it gets hotter and burns more. I know it does seem like a lot of effort. Fire can be, particularly in wet weather, but it's ultimately worth it. You're better going too far than not far enough. And you'll never impress your mates if you fail to light a fire 3 times before you get it right. And I've had this before in the past, where you're out with people and they're like, "What are you piddling about at, Dan? It's taking forever." And they'll start trying to light a fire. They'll get a little bit of a flame, it'll keep going out, they'll fail over and over again, and then when you have finished all your faffery, 1 spark and your fire just does it on its own after that. So it is really worth putting the time into it. Remember the old adage, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. So I'm making use of this unusually placed school chair that I found over there in these woods last week. It's amazing the things I find in these woods that people have dragged in. But anywho, I'm using it. I've got my 3 piles organised and ready. The very first light sticks, the tiny ones, slightly thicker still. It's not an exact science on that. You don't have to be too obsessed, but getting slightly thicker as it goes. The idea being, by the time we get onto those being placed on it, it should be hot enough to get thicker stuff on it. And then, as I always say, in wet fires, people are always obsessed, rightly so, with finding dry stuff. But once it's burning and once it's hot, it doesn't matter. Throw whatever you want on it. Once it's burning hot enough, anything will dry out. It'll steam and smoke a lot, but it will dry out and catch. I was going to go and fetch my firewood fuel, but it has just decided it's going to rain a little bit, and obviously I'm trying to dry out some grass and keep my otherwise sticky materials dry. So just before we do, if you've got it, you might as well use it. This is probably the first time ever you've seen me wear gloves, but I know what I'm about to do is going to be a little sticky and a little slimy. So let's get some leathers on. Right, that'll be dry at least when I get back. So here we have a down pine with all of these sticking out. Now I've just ripped that off. It's a little rotten, but it's dry. So that is just what we need. And like I say, because of this little challenge I've set myself, I'm not using an axe. So we're going to have to break all these off by hand. The good thing is, resin. When you break them off so close to the original trunk like that, the bottom of it is always going to be full of beautiful pine resin. And that's just what we want, because as soon as that starts to get hot, it starts to melt, and then it starts to burn furiously. That's rotten. Don't worry about rotten. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, you can't burn it if it's rotten." Don't worry about rotten. Worry about dry. The inside of that is dry. Now, here's a little gift from the woods. A tree that has completely died. Only a little one. Again, nice and dry on the inside. So, if I can get some purchase on it, I'll snap that. He says, Not a bad haul, although climbing over that mossy tree has given me a wet bum. Not the best. Still, that's why we want the fire, that'll dry us out. GoPro, stop recording. Let's get prepared. There's my lovely haul, some fuel. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it on the ground. I haven't really got anything else to do. To cover it with, we'll put it on. Now, I've got some lovely soggy logs over there left over from the last time I was here. They will be fine. If you see litter, don't worry, I'm collecting it up slowly. It's not me. I'm not leaving beer cans in the woods. Right, get this broke up and ready. Like I say, this wet stuff I left last time, that'll be fine once it's going. This should be, oh, it's beautifully dead. Magic. Oh, lovely. And we'll save this root ball. That can go on it later when it's good and hot. And it'll dry all that mud out and get rid of it. Now, we're about ready to begin. Now, we're all set. So, the only thing even close to cheating that I'm doing today is, if you remember earlier on this year, I actually did a very short video about young birch trees and how when they grow they peel and the bark will come off wafer thin and all ready for you to use. So you can collect that without damaging the tree. So the only thing close to a cheat that I've done today is I'm using that particular birch bark, because obviously this is, I suppose we're looking at this more of the survival side of things, because if all you've got is your wazoo necklace, you're probably in trouble really. So you would have collected your birch bark as you're walking around. This would take time to do. So instead of taking it directly off a tree, I have gone for what I collected earlier on in the year. So that's why I said those young trees are so good for that, because it's already wafer thin and ready to take the spark. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to use this larger piece as a sort of a sacrificial piece to put the other bits on, and then what that'll do is help me with the moisture not soaking in straight away. And rip this up as fine as I can. And like I say, at this point I really don't know if that grass that I collected is going to be dry enough to do this, but there's only one way to find out. I hope it is. It doesn't look too bad. I'm sure some parts of it will be dry. Right, leave that close to hand in case I need to grab a bit more bark out of it. And here we go with the old tiny Sparky. Let's pull it into a place where I can get better access at it. There we go. See if we can ignite the birch bark. Might take several attempts this, because it's a very small ferro button. Oh, got him. Okay. The wet grass is going. Let's get the thin sticks on. Yep, I think the larch is starting to go. So you see now what I said, if I hadn't got that grass and it was just the birch bark, it wouldn't go like that and I'd been in trouble. Well, not in trouble, I'd have been starting again. That's why it is worth taking that time to prepare. So now, whilst it's already hot, I'm not going to mess about. I'm going to get my larger larch on it, because I don't want to waste any of that heat. I want that heat drying this out straight away. And then from that point, I'm going to start feathering on some of my larger sticks, starting with what is visibly the drier stuff first. They're a bit big. And then the larger larch can go on top on the outside, and that'll get going in a minute. You see the smoke? That's obviously the resin being activated, but it's also all the water coming out, and that's why it is important. Build it up quick as you can as soon as it's lit, so you're not wasting that heat, just letting your heat disappear to the atmosphere. All that heat that's coming out the top can be used to dry your next layer of material to make sure that you're going to get that fire. It sounded very serious then, didn't it? To make sure that you get that fire. Well, you know what I mean. And all that hissing and noise that's coming out of it, that's a real good sign. That's the water leaving. Get these around here where the flames are. Just get it start drying. See, there's a lovely dry stick. Better work, I want a brew. Magic. Ooh, that is sodden. Oh well, it'll dry. Get it up there in the heat. Whoa, listen to that noise. Lovely. It kind of sounds like it's self-turboing in there. It is actually. That's the benefit of the larch. As all that larch is heating up, all of its resins and oils are coming out, and that is just roaring. Magic. I think that's at the point now where it's failure proof and self-sustaining. I'm pretty sure I could just leave that right now and it'll just grow and grow and grow from there. And it is absolutely soggy. We are almost December at the moment. We're very end of November now. Everything is absolutely sodden. Well, and you've seen what I've done. You've seen I've taken it off fallen trees and things like that. But it does show you, if you can find it, how crucial things like that grass are, and wrapping it in a towel, putting it in your pocket, doing whatever you can to ensure it is just that little bit drier still. You can add extra stages other than what I've just shown you, and it is a case of the more the merrier. The more stages you add, the less likely it is to fail. So I've just turned it round to my usual more lateral long lay fire pattern, which has caused it to die down significantly. I'm not concerned, it's got a good bed of embers under there. I can still see flames. Might have done that a little too early. I have absolute faith though that it is going to just carry on and grow from there. But now is a great time to start adding whatever other bits of wood are lying around to throw on it. Start getting it dry. I'll start off with this pile. Ooh, slippy stuff. I'll start off with this pile that I created over there and get that starting to dry. Basically just keep, because obviously this is really wet on the outside, always put your drier stuff on at the start of it first to give it every advantage of going, and just build it up. Make sure you've got air gaps, don't go nuts so that it can't breathe, but just get it to the point. And you see how it just dropped there? This is another reason to build it up early, is because one of the biggest mistakes people make with this is, yes, it does need airspace, it does need to be able to breathe, but the problem is at some point you get too big of an airspace and then it's just a hollow space. It's not doing anything once the inside's burnt out. So when you build it up like this, as it's getting going, its own weight crushes it down onto the ember bed. Yeah, not with too much weight, but it presses it down as the underneath burns so that it's got that fuel to relight. That's one of the things I hate most about the pyramid fires when you stack it all up in a big pyramid, is the inside, the core just burns out really quick, and then the outside just stays stood like a frame and never actually catches fire. Not a great idea. We're just about ready. Rest the pan on. Like I say, might as well take advantage of that early heat and start using it. Now, if you are in need of a wafting fire to get it going or keep it burning, just a bit of plastic I've got. Waft it slowly, because, as I've said a few times now, it's all about the ember bed. And if you're going at it like that, yes, you see big flames and you think, ooh, flames. But all you're going to do there is completely fry that ember bed straight away. And then you won't have, as soon as you stop wafting, the flames will stop, because you've wafted away all of that under ember bed that you need. So keep your wafting very calm. And all that back log now is glowing at the back. That was an older log that's been here before that was charcoaled. Always worth saving. We call them fire dogs, and they're always worth using, because that charcoal, obviously charcoal is lovely for burning, but it dries out really fast. As soon as it starts getting heat around it, the charcoal dries out really quickly and starts glowing again and forms your ember bed. So never throw away your charcoaly lumps that are around old fire pits. Today, we're not going to be having my same argument that I have with this cooking pot of mine every damn time. I've got gloves. Today it's just going to do what it's damn well told. For those of you that haven't watched my other videos, my argument with this pot is always, how on earth do I get it off the fire without melting myself and pour water out of it? Today we're not going to have that trouble. We're doing it OG. Original glove style. I'll tell you what though, for a cheap pot, I think it was a good few years ago, I paid 11 quid on eBay for this little stainless steel pot. It has to be stainless steel. I refuse to cook in aluminium. It's disgusting, it tastes funny, I don't like it. So for an eBay bargain, it has served me well. Is that a lump of escaped coffee? Or is it a piece of woodland? Nope, coffee, in you go. Get off me. Okay, doesn't want to go in. Ah! See, it's slow progress, but it is getting there. It is self-sustaining now. I don't need to waft it or anything like that. So there we go, folks. Challenge complete. No cheating required. Oh, is there anything finer than a brew in the woods? No, well, a scotch in the woods, probably better. But there we have it. Fire using only the wazoo fire necklace, wherever the strikers ran off to. It's in here somewhere. Using only the wazoo necklace with the button striker, with the button ferro rod and the ceramic striker. No tools whatsoever, no axes, no knives, no nothing. Just one man and his resourcefulness. What I will say though is, unless you have got a ridiculous quantity of birch bark or mayor wood, but the problem with mayor wood is if you don't have any tools, how are you going to get it thin enough to accept the flame? Birch bark, you can peel it with your fingers, but unless you've got a ridiculous quantity of your birch bark and stuff like that, then things like that grass that we collected are essential, and you need a lot of it, a lot more than you think you're going to need. Other things work, dried ferns, dried umbellifers, anything like that, which they are around this time of year because obviously they've died off now and just left the sort of skeletal remains. That's generally relatively dry. The thing is choosing where you pick it from, but also, like I said, that handy trick is wrap it in a towel to suck a bit more moisture out of it, or some spare clothing that you've got now. Obviously, if you were in a cold, wet situation, it's not going to be your first thought to use your clothing to suck moisture out of things, because you're like, well, then I'll have wet clothes, so if I don't get a fire, I'll be even wetter. There's two ways of looking at that. If you do get a fire, you can dry it out. If you don't use that method of drying the grass with your clothing, your towel, maybe you won't get a fire, at which case, if you are stuck somewhere, exposure's going to get you without a fire, even if your clothes are dry. I mean, without the fire to stand next to, your clothing's going to suck ambient moisture out of the air anyway, as it does. Anyone who's left a coat in a garage knows that. You think, yeah, it's dry in there. Yeah, it's dry and there's not water dripping, but you go put your coat on, it'll be damp. So that is a good technique of making your grass more likely to go up, is wrap it in something and just give it a bit of time to let it soak the moisture out. Yeah, works for me. As you saw it, where that grass went up really well. I was actually not expecting that grass to burn that well. It took me by surprise a bit, went a bit quicker than I thought, so you know, and all of that whatnot. Anyway folks, that is all I need to say for this video. So as always, get out there, get bushcrafting, get having fun, be safe when you're out playing, and get trying to make fires with nothing but a ferro rod. Always a handy thing to practice. And as I've started to say more and more, which I don't like saying, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. It does make a big difference to us. And if you want to leave a comment, please feel free, keep it clean. This is a family channel. If you want to if you've got any ideas, any questions, I love it when people suggest ideas for videos to make. It might not be the very next video that I make, but if it's a half decent idea, I promise you I will go out and give it a try. So any suggestions are always welcome. But other than that folks, that is all from Bosun Dan.